Hey, welcome back inside the Mind of Matt. We're back in the garage. We're gonna work on this stove a little bit. I got my PID controller. I'm gonna show you that in a little bit. See what's gonna happen. Stay tuned. Alright, so after the last video, me opening this thing up, I went on Amazon and I found a PID controller that suited my needs. I did leave a link in the description. Kind of came with all the components I need. Comes with a relay. That's the bracket for holding the controller in. That's the PID controller. Got one that was 100 to 240 volts. Yeah. So it's going to work right off the voltage that I've got coming into the stove itself. And it came with a thermocouple. So it might seem a little overwhelming to everybody else, but I'm kind of used to all these wires, and that's why I'm doing this video, because I'm going to break it down and show you what to do and get this thing working off of a PID controller and get it so that it warms up enough so that I can burn out my wax filament. And we're also going to attempt some PLA as well. But I didn't even know how hot this thing's going to get, so this is all experiment. So stay tuned. I'm going to dive into some of these wires. Now the first problem I have is this whole face is all glass. So it's not like I can easily cut this into it. So I'm going to do something like this. Alright, so here's where we're at. I've pretty much gutted all the unnecessary components that I can up to this point. The only thing else I got to do is to take the top off and get the burners out. Alright, so let's talk about what we got and what we got to do next. So I got the PID mounted. I've got it for proof of concept and for programming purposes. I've got it wired up to 120 volts, which it's going to be taking 120 volts off of the actual source. We have the top burner, 2 wires that are going to go to a relay, the bottom burner, another 2 wires that are going to go to a relay. And I'm not exactly sure, but I'm thinking because this thing had a self-clean setting that it's actually got a third heating element in it on the outside, but once I take this top off I'll be able to get a closer look at that. But right now I'm mainly concerned about that one and that one, the top and the bottom being. Got the terminal block. Well, this guy here is actually a motor because it has the self-cleaning mode. It's actually this is like a lock that engages on the front side. And I've disconnected it and tried to get it out as much as I can because I'm gonna reappropriate that for a different purpose for sure. Probably be able to get it off once I get the top off. And pretty much all the controls I took off. And once again, I'm just at a temporary state so that we can do some testing and see what we're going to get. So my next goal is, once again, I got 120 volts hooked up to this. This is the thermocouple. Next thing I got to do is hook up the control wire to the, on the controller it says SSR, and that's solid state relay. So those are the wires you want to connect up. And where did my relay go? My relay is somewhere here, but that's my next. I'm going to get some wires from that to the relay, and we're going to plug it in. Now this is the point in the video where I'm going to throw out the warning and say that once you plug this in, you're dealing with live power. Up to this point it's been not plugged in, so whatever you've been doing, you're safe. As soon as you plug it into the wall is when the danger incurs. I am a qualified, as well as I'm comfortable working with line voltage. If you're not comfortable, this may not be the project for you, or just use the ultimate caution. Make sure that things are grounded, nothing's connected, you're not cross-wired, and most of all, make sure that you've got some type of like overcurrent protection. I'm going to be installing some fuses and stuff to protect, you know, the voltage going to here. I'm going to be putting some kind of fuse. Here, see, as I say, this is going to be a project that's going to be involved, and I'm going to make this work, and it's going to be cool. So stay tuned. We're going to keep going. All the stuff that I took out, the knobs, the wires. There's a thermostat in there, the light, a ballast. Alright, I've spun this controller around to the other way just for demonstration purposes. This way I can kind of see what's going on and not have to be on the other side or spin this thing around and still be able to make my connections. So I'm going to hook this up to my solid state right now. Now there is a polarity, plus and minuses on both of the controller as well as the relay. So make sure that you take note of that. Okay, so at this point my PID controller is all wired up. This is my 120 volts down here. And once again, this is rated for 120 to 200 or 100 to 240 volts AC on my input, and that way I can use half of the voltage that I'm going to supply to the stove to control this. It creates its own output of 12 volts. Which this works to 3 to 32 volts. So that's going to my relay. And this is my thermocouple, and that also is polarized. I'm going with the red as the positive and the blue as the negative for the first hookup. Okay, so at this point the only thing left to do is to plug this in, so I'm going to plug it in. Once again, don't do this unless you know you're safe. Okay, it might not show up. Looks like the camera's gonna make it do some pulsy things, but I do have a full readout. Okay, the next stage is going to be getting into the program mode, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's all kinds of different settings, and because of the temperatures that I want to work with, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to obtain them, but I'm going to go for the setting that is from 0 to 2300 degrees Celsius. So it's got a whole setup flow chart here, so I'm going to try to get in here for the first time and get this thing set up. Alright, well, that seems like the main ones that I want. Okay, seems like it's going up in temperature as well. I'm not sure if the camera, yep, it'll pick it up. So as you see, the light is on. It's actually calling for, so I should be able to okay, so it's touching the ground and the temperature went way down. So trying to see if I can get the temperature to go up. Let me try something a little hotter. Alright, so see if I can get this popped up right. See all that? Might not be able to see the temperature, but and the relay goes off. So looks like it's all good. So now what I'm going to do is a little test on the elements. And I haven't talked about one of the most important things about this whole thing. I'm going to be operating my stove outside, and I need a power source of a 50 amps capability. Well, I happen to have this laying around from a job, and I'm going to show you. It's actually leftovers from a big crane that I did, and it is 4 conductor 8 gauge, which is 50 amp rated, and it'll have my 2 hots, my ground, and I'm going to bring a neutral. Now the next obstacle I got to do is get across from my panel to the outside, where I'll be putting either a sub panel, so I can also plug in my welder and my air compressor, which are both 240 as well. But either way, I do not have a 240 source in my garage, so I have to do that as well. Anyways, the point I'm at right now is I'm going to be taking and actually trying to see how much heat I can get from these elements with just 120 volts. So once again, at this point, I'm going to be working with live exposed electricity. Danger. Please be cautious. Alright, so instead of using the block that's provided there, because it'd be easier to just be able to use something like a terminal block, I had this laying around from another project that I haven't completed yet. And also broken out these. At this point, I'm just going to be going raw wire underneath, because I need to find my crimper, but my final connections will all be made in something like this, so it's another part I'll leave a link in the description as to a good spot where you can get it if you want to buy it through my affiliate links. But anyways, let's keep wiring. Alright, next I'm going to take a couple jumpers and come from these terminals over to another terminal that I can take off and go to my solid state relay. Now I could mount this terminal block at any point here instead of fumbling with it, but because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to mount all these things, I'm thinking maybe like an external box, a metal type of an electrical enclosure. Might be cool to mess with. This isn't something you're going to do overnight, unless you spend the entire time and you have all the parts laid out with your design concept. So make sure that you subscribe and hit your notification while you're at it, and that way as this project progresses then you'll be alerted, because I'm going to share it. Also, don't forget to hit that like button. If you don't like it and you hit the dislike button, make sure you leave a comment down in the comment section as to why you didn't like it, so that I might be able to alleviate you disliking my videos. Okay, so let's talk about where we're at right now. This is going to go into the wall. Coming into this terminal, this is my ground wire, which eventually will get hooked up to the whole metal shell. But so I got my 120 volts coming in, it's coming out, going into my controller. It's also jumping over here to another terminal section where I'm going to be taking it from here. One of them is going to go straight to one side of the element, the other one is going to go through the controlled. This is the control side and this is the controlled side. So this is your control voltage, and this is whatever you're going to control, an in, and it's the same wire, so basically it's a switch in the middle. So I'm going to take my hot wire, because you always want to break your hot wire. Of course, in this case we're going to have two hot wires, so you're only going to be breaking one. If we did a double pole, we could break two of them. If I incorporated another relay like this next to it, we can control both of them. What we might end up doing is having multiple ones, because my idea is if I can't reach the temperature I need to with them, then I'll employ the extra power of the coils, a couple extra of them mounted somehow on the side. So but we'll see what the stock ones are going to do, and if we have to do some extra insulation and stuff like that. So all I got now to do is I need a wire from here to here, and a wire from here to one of the elements, and a wire from here to the element, to the other side of the element. So I'm going to do that now. So this is kind of the moment of truth here, where I'm going live with real stuff. Got my 120 volts coming in, going off to my controller, as well as jumping over to a bridge, which I've got coming down. This is my neutral going to one half of the element. The other half of the element is coming off of one half of the switch side of the solid state relay. The other side of the solid state relay is coming right off of the 110, the 110 hot. This side is the SSR control connection, train 8 and 6. Our power's coming into 9 and 10, and our thermocouple is hooked up to 3 and 4. So theoretically, now I was playing around with it earlier and the alarm is set kind of low, so it was giving me an over alarm error indicator, so I'm going to have to go in and probably either disable or raise the set value for the, but I know these elements are rated for 240, so they're going to work half capacity at 120 volts. So once again, this is just proof of concept and giving myself a little test, because theoretically if I can get it working at 120 volts with not drawing too much amperage. But as you see in here, I got my amp. I also got another meter with a thermocouple hooked to that I'm going to go inside and test the actual element and see inside and see if we can get this thing to raise in temperature a little bit. So here we go. Alright, we're getting plugged in 3, 2, 1. Celsius. Over alarm. It does show it drawing, so let's go over here. Oh yeah, it's getting hot. Close this and see what happens. Alright, I think I've got all the settings in the PID set up the right way, but as you see, I'm drawing 6.7 amps on that element, and my red light is on. And my thermostat, or my thermocouple, is on the inside. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. Right there. The top element is definitely heating. It's already up to 104. 5. So that's just one element. I'm probably going to want to do the bottom. Well, actually, truth it is, I want to do both of them. So we'll see what temperature we can get up with. I'm going to let this just run for a couple minutes and see what happens. Okay, so in 8 minutes, a single element wired at 120 volts through the PID. I had set the temperature for 300 degrees, And as you see, it is 309. The PID is off. It's doing that. It's not, cooling off. I have not done a PID tuning or anything, but just as a proof of concept, at 120 volts, only drawing 6.7 amps at the most, I was able to get this makeshift kiln 300 degrees. Now, I do have a paper, or actually it's a JPEG that the guys over at Machinable Wax sent me, and I will include that in this clip right here. But it's basically a burnout schedule, and I'm going to follow that procedure as much as I can if I can achieve those temperatures. So at this point I only have a single element hooked up. It's still climbing. It's not heating it, but it's reading its temperature, and it's 317 degrees right now. So I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to wire this bottom element in parallel with this. So I'll have the top and the bottom element both working off of 120 volts. I'll do an amp reading, and we'll heat it up and see if we can get this thing going to 400 degrees. Alright, so now I got the bottom element, one side hooked up, and that's my neutral, hooked up to the white wire up there, and then the other side is hooked up right in line with that side of the element. So I'll still be able to get a good amp reading. I'm assuming that it's going to double in amperage size, so we should probably be reading 12. Now the other thing I did do was I did a voltage reading on my actual source, and because I'm coming from the house to the garage, 100-foot extension cord all the way around to a power strip to a chintzy little, this is actually the wire that was originally came with my ANET power supply. So I'm getting 100 volts. 100 volts. 240 elements being wired up at 120. I'm going to set this for 400 degrees. The sun is starting to set at an odd angle for this. Maybe that'll block the sun a little bit. So, alright, here we go. I'm going to plug this back in. Okay, got it set at 500. Not sure what's happening here, so give me a moment to work with me. Okay, so at this point I have both the top and the bottom element wired in parallel, 120 volts. It's drawing just a little over 11 amps, 100 volts. Here, let's show you, because I do have a voltage drop situation, but once I get my bigger power out here, see, I'm getting 101 volts, but only drawing 10 amps. 11 amps. Doesn't seem like it's getting too hot. So, let's see what happens. You see my lights on, indicating it's heating. It's definitely hot in there. "15 minutes later, we're at 432 degrees. Alright, it's been about a half hour, and I have been able to achieve 500 degrees just now with the top and the bottom element of a 50 amp rated range wired at 120 volts, and it's only drawing, well, because it's not kicked on right now, but it was drawing 10 amps. Now let's now I want you to notice that this edge all the way around, it's a little warm right here, just a little bit, but I'm not where I can't keep my hand on it. Feel a little bit of heat, like very little. I mean, it's warm, you can tell it's warm, but all this whole surface is all cool. Got my heat gun out. 31 degrees. Let's open this bad boy out. That may not be the most accurate, but you know it's definitely hot in there. Just drop down so now you see 10.5 amps at 100 volts. It's getting a major voltage drop. So mainly a proof of concept. I've got some cleaning up of this to do for sure, but we'll not cover that in this video. I just wanted to get into this, get it going, so that I can take it to the next stage. I've got my wax, so my filaments being taken care of. I've got a reusable mold that I've made, and now I've got an oven to melt that all out. So stay tuned. The next step in my process to complete it was going to be a vacuum chamber, which I'm going to source out the parts and make it myself. So make sure that you're subscribed and hit that notification so that you get notified when those videos come out, because I'm going to share them all. Anyways, once again, this has been another episode of Inside the Mind of Matt. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Check out my links in the comment section for all my affiliate, my Patreon, as well as the link for where you can get this off of Amazon, the PID controller that is. So happy printing, everybody. Good luck mounting.